We are live, asiatechpodcast in the asiatechpodcast studio here in Singapore. Graham Brown with Daniel Shen. Daniel, welcome.
Hi.
Good to have you here. We're going to talk about Soqqle,
Yep.
blockchain, fintech, all that stuff. We're going to talk about, well, I mean, it's interesting that what you're doing with blockchain and the application of, sort of quite cutting edge technologies, but in quite sort of human ways as well. So, I mean, it's always interesting. You can talk about blockchain and get quite removed from day-to-day life, but we're going to talk about that. We're going to walk through your pitch deck, have a look at some of the points in there. Maybe we can talk about Soqqle first. And for those that are listening and not watching along on the video, just on the audio, Soqqle, S-O-Q-Q-L-E. It's not an obvious word. What does it mean?
It's trying to help people to find their circle of friends, to pursue what they want to achieve for the future. And future is changing. Digitalization, how we work, how we live is changing a lot. And it's quite hard for people nowadays to find out what is their purpose. And that's what we're trying to solve. We're trying to solve purpose. So we have a platform where you can find out more about your friends and brands, about what they stand for, and then get excited and rewarded for taking part on those what they stand for. So we do that through tasks, stories, and a really interesting reward system on the blockchain, which is what I think we're going to go
We're
deeper
going to
into.
go deeper, yeah.
Yeah.
These are big questions to ask in Singapore, aren't they? I mean, it's interesting that now there's a lot of discourse about, what should be my purpose? And it's almost like Singapore's a bit later to the game, isn't it? Because it's a very successful economy. Many generations have been brought up, and early on it was a survival economy like any emerging market, right? And then it became very successful and rich. And now people are starting to ask questions, aren't they, for the first time really about, what should I do with my life? Because your parents went out and they worked and they got good jobs, good incomes, a job for life. They got their CPF, their fund, and they were sorted. But now their children are coming through and asking, what's it all about?
So there's a whole big shift, and largely because of how young people are coming into the market, the millennials, the Gen Zs. And I used to work in a big corporate bank, and investment bank.
One of the biggest.
One of the biggest. And I saw how people were losing their jobs. And I saw how people were coming into the bank, started to do operations, and absolutely did not like it. And then they started to question, what should I be doing with my life? And with that, I think there's this new need or new demand where even within how we socialize with our friends, or even between how we know what our friends want to do, that is quite difficult. I mean, I can go onto LinkedIn and check out my social network and find out what my friends are talking about. But if I want to do something, where do I go?
Right.
I can go to Facebook and find out all my friends, but do I know what they stand for? Not really.
What do you mean, what you stand for?
So if I'm green, if I like to save the earth, and I want to find out which of my 5 friends have the same goal and interest and actually want to take part in something, there's people who will talk, but there are not a lot of people who will do. I can go to volunteer if I need to, but sometimes it's not very easy to take that next step or take the first step. So that's what we're trying to do. So in games, we have the concept of, for those who are gamers, we have the concept of LFM, so looking for members. In games, you want to do a dungeon. So in this game-based situations,
It's creating a party, isn't it?
Yeah,
Like,
creating
okay.
a party. You have that in games, but we don't have that in real life.
All right. Do you come from the world of games?
I do.
Right. I know, because World of Warcraft's on your deck, isn't it, as well? I noticed that come up as well. So explain to us that concept. For those who don't game or don't come from the role-playing world, what is that concept of, building a party and then going on a quest together?
So what was quite interesting there was, I mean, we have been building this platform since last October. So we have iterated 5 times. So every 2-3 months, we have iterated one version. We went out to the market, came back, and we started to ask questions on what will make you more productive. How do I get you out of a current system whereby you're just spending time to actually do something? And most of the time, they just go back and end up with their endless scrolls. And the only time when they'll actually do something is when they get certain rewards. And one of the biggest things was tokens, was one of the biggest potential opportunities for them to change their decisions. And then when we started to look at tokens and the blockchain, then we started to think about how do we create an economy where people want tokens. And then from there, then the next thing to do was, why should I reinvent the wheel? Why not look at something whereby there's millions of players in a digital world doing things, wanting a digital currency, and there's already an in-game auction house. So then we applied this whole role-playing game concept so that people actually want to do something and be incentivized to do good things for public good. So that's how the concept
in the real
world. So here what happens is, you want to do something, you put up a request, people join you. There are certain things that you can do every day. You get rewarded a certain number of rewards. If you do it with your friends, you get 10 times more.
Right.
If you say you're going to do something but you don't finish it, you get a penalty. If you finish it, you get maybe twice the number of rewards. You get items that can make it more cool, you can get side quests by completing things. So that's what's going to be the value of these tokens. You can use it to get side quests, reduce death penalties, or get double number of achievements. So that's what this gaming thing is supposed to be.
Let's have a look. We'll jump into the pitch deck in a minute. And let me ask before we just do this. I mean, you're talking about doing quests. I mean, in the real world, as a party going off and doing a quest together, we're not going off and slaying dragons or rescuing people from dungeons, are we? I mean, you're talking about real things. So. All right, so just so we establish that, I know it comes from the world of gaming, but so people understand. Let's have a quick walk through this. We'll have a look at some of the slides here. And I think it's interesting that you start off by identifying some of the pain points here. This slide here. So for those that aren't watching on video and just listening along on the podcast, you've got this slide, which is slide 2 on your pitch deck, which talks about dangerously low. So you're talking about here, 13% of all employees are highly engaged. Only 30%, right? 13%. Sorry. And you've got 51% of companies attempt to develop. My eyesight's going, so help me out here. Business development, business goals. Only 51%. And what's that one? Only 6% actually revisit them. So explain to me what this slide's about. So this
goes into the part that you just asked me. We're not killing dragons. So what can we do? And as I was giving the other example just now, when I was in the bank and people losing their jobs, they were not sure how they could contribute. And they could not see the future value of what they're doing in their daily jobs. So that is what we're trying to solve here. So
the low engagement. Only 13% are engaged at the levels they should be.
And this game, this role-playing game like a World of Warcraft, doesn't just have to be for public. It could be for institutions.
Right.
So we are creating... So what I'm eventually creating is a community platform as a service. So I could plug into any companies to gamify their audience. Could be employees or their customers. And this specific example is for their employees as a learning and development human resource tool. And so what happens here is that companies can customize the task. So instead of killing monsters, how about coming up with a better UX for my app?
Right. And these are all within the company?
Within the company.
Right, okay. So here are the challenges. Here are the dungeons, so to speak.
Yeah.
Okay, who's going to jump on board with this quest to go and...
Exactly. So that part about who's going to come on board to solve those questions, solve those tasks, is today a problem that companies have a problem with. Because usually departments are so silo.
Yeah.
For me to call up a finance department, when I'm not in a finance department, they're going to ask me, I'm too busy. Why are you calling me?
Yeah, my KPI is different as well. KPI, right, yeah.
But here it becomes something completely independent. And it goes, I need to do this to get an achievement that I'm the best UX person in this company. And I need some help from finance, maybe to think about behavioral economics, how to incentivize people. So that whole element and that specific task can be customized by companies. So that's what the brands can do. And they could even do stuff like, volunteer for green picking up rubbish on the beach and those kind of stuff.
Right. It doesn't have to be the CSR type stuff as well.
doesn't
There's
have
like
to be.
real business
Yeah.
problems like the UX as well.
Could be.
I like what you're doing because, you know, I've worked many years in telecoms and, you know, it's the most siloed of all organizations out there. You know, you have the guys that just do engineering, they're making the widgets, those that sell it and so on. Everybody's very focused on their thing, their silo. And what you tend to find is that the actual insights, they cut across all of that. So like you said, you know, there may be a guy in finance and there might be somebody who is in the events business and somebody in PR, the guy in the mail room, so to speak, or one of the secretaries. You know, you could join the dots across all of these different departments and teams who normally wouldn't come together for whatever reason, those walls, right?
Yep.
But that's the challenge that businesses and brands have to address to stay relevant today.
Yep.
Because if they want to create a team that deals with UX, it can't just be the designers. You've got to get all these other people involved, right? And it's a challenge, isn't it? Because the DNA of the organization doesn't allow that. But you're coming in and saying, hey, look, we found a way of cutting across here and doing that. So, well, my question to be was, you know, you've talked about UX as an example. What examples do you have of this? Where would this apply? Would it be those kind of obvious examples? Have you taken this to organizations yet and been surprised by what
So
they
right
come back
now, one of the biggest ones is, so we've got one local bank who signed up for our beta, and they're interested in using this for their high potential employees. The specific use case of, like for example, UX, is dependent on the department that wants to use it. So it could span anything. But high potential employees was one of the biggest things that they wanted to solve because these people are so good that they've already outgrown their scope and they have no idea what to do. And it's hard for a high potential employee to find another high potential employee.
Exactly.
Because you have no idea who they are. So and then coming up with tasks that they could do. And the key goal is the person who decides that it's a UX task is going to be from the business. It's going to be a business demand. Like for example, a bank could be saying we want to grab more market share around our QR code app for payments, and they want a user to come up with ideas. So they get an employee who is potentially going to be a user to do it. So it's going to be aligned towards the business goals, as opposed to just, oh, I need to do a spreadsheet and send it out at 7 p.m. every day. So that's where it's going to go.
Who actually comes up with a task though? So is it one of those high potential employees says, hey guys, we need to do this. These are the goals that have been set for us. We need to do this. Are you on board or not?
Right now I'm working with the innovation departments. So the innovation departments will come up with where the business needs to be more innovative. So it could be in augmented reality, it could be in VR, it could be voice, and they see where the trends are going. And then they have to work with the business heads on what they want to achieve for the business. So it's going to be more independent. Or it could be a specific department who wants to do it within their team to improve on, for example, leadership skills. On maybe doing a team, working with their internal team to do a side project. So the use cases are broad, but it really depends on what they want to achieve. So this platform is built as an open platform. It's just a platform as a service. Tasks, questions. So one of the biggest use case that we have, the platform is built as instead of killing 10 monsters, you're answering 10 questions. So the concept of stories comes with heroes. So we have innovation, digitalization, data science, programming, as we have different heroes set up in the system. So so we have like default vanilla heroes that people can follow, learn, and get tasks based on those heroes. So if you choose, for example, Iron Man as a hero to follow, you learn about chatbots like Jarvis. If you learn to be, if you pick up Captain America, you might learn about biotechnology. And then your goal is to try. If you choose Iron Man, your goal is to find a Captain America within the bank to form an Avengers.
Right. Okay.
So that's this game element within the platform.
So you actually have to go out and find that person.
You get matched.
Right. Okay.
You get matched.
But who decides that there's a match?
So my platform does.
Your platform decides.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's where you're building teams internally.
Exactly.
Okay. So explain to me a bit about the heroes again, because I was interested in that. I mean, I love storytelling.
So
This is what
when you join the platform,
Yeah.
there's one tab that says heroes.
Yeah.
When you click on that tab, you get to see. Right now, I have 4 heroes. You get to see 4 heroes with their avatars.
Yeah, these are the archetypes that you're right.
Yeah, exactly. Archetypes. That's cool. So heroes with storylines. So I have different storylines whereby there's right now one of them is called a digital nomad. So the digitalization guy. So he has the power to at will phase in and out of a digital realm, which represents the ability for people to really think digitally. So he has a different personality and skill, and there's a whole story about him, like how did he get to that stage, and how does he fight, and there's a certain story. And as you progress through the story starts from, for example, businesses are failing because they are not innovative enough. So then I have questions that set up for innovation. I've throughout this story, he also participates in government programs. So I also talk about how governments are innovative, what programs are there globally. So it goes through a story, and as you level up through the game and by completing tasks, you open up more lines. So you end up going into digitalization in healthcare, digitalization in defense or warfare or defense, and so that's what these stories are supposed to do.
So are those stories like character or classes in the
Yes.
old? Okay,
Yes.
so all right, I got you. All right, you're right. Now, if you told me in those contexts,
Yeah,
so
if
these
you're a
are
gamer,
classes that I can choose.
Yes.
So I can, I mean, people are familiar with this now. This is no longer sort of confined to the world of geeks. People are familiar with the idea of levels and getting points and so on. So, all right, so I can go in as a user and choose a class, a story, a hero, right? Which fits what I feel is the right kind of avatar for me.
Where your direction is going. Yeah.
Interesting. And why do you think they have to do that? What is it? Does it? It's kind of. Is it like the sort of the karaoke idea? Is that is it an Asian thing in the sense that Asians often a little bit scared of getting up on the mic, but if you give them a personality or an avatar, you give the Japanese singing as Michael Jackson or Elvis Presley, they'll do a great job of it. But if they're themselves, terrible. Because is that kind of that sort of?
Well, kind of. I mean, the reason why we went with this heroes concept or archetypes concept is, well, I have a story for. I mean, I have a reason for that, because like blockchain and Bitcoin, the question that I had was, why don't I have more Bitcoins? And it's not just because I missed it. It's the question is, what was I doing 7 years ago? And why, when I heard it, my mind was that it's only used for certain negative reasons. So it's very, very difficult for people today to know what's happening around the world. There's quantum computing, there's VR, there's voice, but people on the streets, people in schools, universities may not even be sharing that kind of insights. So if there was a platform out there that 7 years ago could tell me there's such a thing called blockchain, and it's somehow made in a very cool way through either stories or heroes or classes, there's a higher chance of me actually doing it. And if you just give me a blank sheet of paper, I wouldn't know what to do. So we have to create maybe 10 different heroes, and these heroes are going to grow and change. It's going to get more and more based on what the audience. So we're going to make it user driven as well. So that's where it's going to go.
Got it. All right. Well, let's go back to the pitch deck and maybe have a look at some of the examples here. All right. We've already just started here. I'm going to skip through, if you allow me, Daniel. Is that
sure.
We talked about what Soqqle is. So you say you're a blockchain-powered company. We haven't really talked about blockchain yet. I'm holding it. We're gonna release that in the last part. We talked about the hero's journey here. Really interesting that you talk about needs as well. I mean, if you're not watching this on the video, the 5 genetic needs you identify: survival, love, belonging, power, freedom, and fun. So love and belonging together, right? But these are fundamental needs, and I think that you're talking about in the world of work, people's need for meaning and for to feel significance, right? That they're doing. I'm here for a reason, right? This is where we started this conversation today, isn't it? Why am I here? What am I doing with my life? Am I important? when I end this journey, will I have done something useful with my time, right? So, you've started to talk about this, and then what is this part here? Before we sort of jump into the blockchain, I know there's some data being thrown around in this pitch deck. You talk about 20% gain. What is that?
In productivity.
As a result of...
So if you're more objective focused, your goal is driven around, I want to achieve things. There's an outcome in doing UX. There's 20% chance of me being way more productive and actually taking action.
Right.
So this is more from an enterprise version. The employee is going to do more if you make it more objective driven and goal focused or problem solving, problem focused.
Right. So let me be difficult here and try and understand is that somebody might argue that why do you have to gamify it, right? Why don't you just give meaningful work to people in these organizations? Why does it have to be a game? It's almost somebody might argue it's almost making it a bit gimmicky, isn't it? How would you deal with that?
So there's two types of games. You have gamification and game-based learning. So this kind of goes a bit deeper into the education world that we have today. One of it is what users on the street wants. And to really differentiate ourselves from other social platforms out there, and we have done our market validation as well. We're not on the streets. We tested. We asked if I were to give you blockchain, even actually the concept of games, they go like, okay, they're not that interested. But if you make it cool, engaging, and fun. And that goes back to the other slide, which is belonging, was what people actually, oh, wow, I get to feel that I belong in a bigger community. And as well as, from a game-based learning standpoint, there's a lot of work that has gone on in schools that has proven that problem-based, game-based, and not just gamification, because gamification goes around giving you points, giving you a candy at the end of something, and sometimes that is very short-term. And it's not longer term goal. But if you can do a game base where there's progression, you have to master your foundations first before you can do something bigger. And then it's tied to a way bigger goal of like killing a dragon.
Right.
Then people will do it.
So would you say that you're game based as opposed to game? Okay, so I don't understand the difference, but now that you explain it to me, I do.
Yeah.
So let me just can I repeat that back to you? So I've got it. So gamification, like you say, is giving somebody a candy if they do a task. So they associate doing the task with a reward, right? Game-based is, like you mentioned, having progression and levels and a longer-term target, and you might be part of something, and there's all that goes into it as well. So there's actually quite a big difference, isn't it? And I think people only know about gamification, really. But what you're saying is, learning, really, all of learning, school, education, systems, work, is game-based at some point, is it? Maybe it's just not connected properly.
Exactly. Social networks were also supposed to be about learning.
Right.
Supposed to be.
How do you mean?
We were all supposed to learn from our friends, what they're doing. We're supposed to learn about what they want to do. How can we learn together with them? But we are not really doing that a lot today.
It's been gamified, maybe.
We get gamified. We get gamification.
Right.
But it's very strong if you can combine game-based with a unique gamification, which is the blockchain part.
Right. Okay. Let's go there. Let's talk about that then. Where does blockchain come into all of this?
So two parts. Number one, which is tokens. So our market testing there was you would be more productive if there's a reward of a token, which gave us a very interesting point of view. So I believe that tokens have the ability to change a person's behavior for the better. So where there is an intrinsic motivation, like being green or learning, usually people are too lazy. They say they want to learn. Everyone wants to be better. Everyone wants to be better, themselves, but they rather go to sleep. But if I were to give you a token for 5 minutes of learning, there's a much higher chance of the person making a decision to do it. So that one example there was Saturday morning, 8 a.m. Would you sleep or spend 5 minutes to learn something new? So chances are you go back to sleep. But if I give you a token where the value is not clear, it could be used for achievements or having a lunch with a CEO or whatever, there's a much higher chance of you taking a decision. So we think that it's very strong for stuff like that, for being green, for for taking wellness, taking care of your family and stuff like that. So it can change a person's behavior for intrinsic motivations. So I see that a token can change. It's a seed of transformation. So my goal is to give a token to everybody's hands in the world. So that's number one. Tokens as a really strong motivation. It's kind of marketing. And secondly, we are putting achievements that people earn and complete on the blockchain. And the goal for that is to make achievements, which is social reputation, transparent. So I've mentioned about like a World of Warcraft or a game. People on the street can use this platform to engage with brands. I've also mentioned about where enterprises themselves could be using this internally. The third part was educational institutions like universities. So we have a few that signed up for our beta, and I'm exhibiting in EduTech Asia in October. So those who are coming for the exhibition in Suntech on the 9th and 10th, feel free to visit us. So universities are the third part of this puzzle. We are trying to put everyone onto one blockchain so that achievements, reputation, and references would be way easier to validate and justify. And no one really owns it except the user, the person who earns it.
Yeah, that's interesting. There's been a lot of talk, and especially people who come into the show, about putting HR onto the blockchain and doing it in different ways, and people adding different bits as they go along. And that part you're talking about, university and achievements and reputation, putting that on the blockchain, because now, if I want to get my transcripts from university, I've got to go back to the university in a different country, a different time zone, et cetera, et cetera. So it's locked in that silo, isn't it? And then, I want to take that across to the world of work and take that with me. It shouldn't be like a different system and so on.
Yep.
And so people are sort of realizing there's a lot of challenges here in HR, because there's a lot of siloing of information that can be carried across, right?
Yep.
And I know people are sort of working at a different end where they're talking about, references, for example, which is coming from a different angle of what you're doing about, how could you, for example, everything you've ever done in the business, like all the projects you've done and your awards, how can you take that with you when you leave?
Exactly.
Because right now that's all locked in the company, isn't it? So people are trying to free this up. Now, I would argue that there would be people who say that's not a good idea.
Sure.
Because, large organizations exist. They have an architecture which reinforces that behavior, right? Which is, very top down. So if you start freeing all that information up, as much as it motivates employees, which is great, at the end of the day, it may change the structure of a business, because now you're kind of, siloing exists for a reason, right? It's not necessarily great for everybody. It serves somebody's purpose, right?
Well, siloing is there because of assembly lines. When cars were created and they needed a better way to create products. And that has changed. I mean, nowadays we have automation, so that's not required anymore. But to the point on what we are trying to save on the blockchain is reputation. Preferably good reputation. I don't know what we're going to do with bad reputation, whether we're going to store that on the blockchain. But we want to store stuff like the most social, best helper in the community, for example. And those are things that we've not had situations whereby companies say, no, I don't want you to tell everyone else that you are the best. Because, in today's world, it's the same thing, even with or without the blockchain. They don't suppress your good behavior. So we have not had that situation. But the goal of the blockchain is not really to try and change. In this case, this second example is not really to change the business model, but to give improvements in time saving, authenticity, validation. When a student graduates from university, when he joins the workforce, he realizes, the company is using Soqqle as well, and it's all within the same blockchain. And even if it's another human resource platform using the blockchain, they can see it as well. So it can be used in different ways. But blockchain is also one more step way bigger, whereby we could set up decentralization algorithms that actually can try to prove the person's contribution. So what that means is, like Bitcoin, we have proof of work, where you prove that the 15-minute task done to solve mathematics is giving work, and that creates the coin. And we can create something similar, and we are not there yet, but the plan is that we want to create something similar where all organizations on this platform can prove that the student or the user is doing his part for the world. In this case, the future. So my proof is originally proof of learning, proving that a person is learning and growing, but also linking that to where the world is going towards. So proof of future is where I'm going. So the university can prove that what they are teaching is related to where the world is going towards because they're hooked up to companies. Companies can prove that with their human resource processes that they're actually encouraging employees to be better. And then I have other types of companies who are doing something similar. So one of the other areas is gaming. So I'm also going into the gaming. As you can imagine, one of my users are gamers. So we are creating an ecosystem for gaming as well, where companies, publishers, advertisers, owners can prove that they are actually not just there for money, but to grow the whole ecosystem. So that becomes a proof of future as well. So everyone has to align towards this, so that it's a self-fulfilling, self-running decentralization protocol.
Yeah, I mean, think about, for example, what Glassdoor has done for reviews about companies. And now companies realize it's not a threat, but it's actually a good thing for them to be on Glassdoor and to get good ratings and so on. You know, if what you're doing is adopted by enough companies, they'll get to a stage where they'll see that rating of them, or what people are saying about them because it's out in the public, about how they're improving the community and the ecosystem around them, which involves, the community and the people within the organization. Are they helping them learn? Are they becoming better people? Are they becoming happier? Are they fulfilling their needs? In theory, we should be able to quantify that, measure it, and compare it. So I know, for example, if I went and worked for Soqqle, as an example, I can see the information here, that this is, what happened when people join the organization. And after this amount of time, this is what happened to those people. Okay, salary aside, benefits aside, this is the human angle, of emotional angle of what happened to them as people. I mean, that's really interesting. We haven't quantified that yet. Is that where we can go with this?
That's where we're going to go with it. And you can see it. And the beauty of it is all in 5 minutes. Bang. This is just there. And that's also why I've been going around Asia. So I was in Korea for 1 month, Vietnam for 1 month, Thailand for 1 month, just to validate that this concept works in Asia. Because I have to prove that this platform is not just a Singapore platform.
What did you learn?
So I've learned that all kinds of companies love the idea, and they've all signed up for the platform when the beta is live. So we're doing a Kickstarter in December just to do a way bigger kickstart for this platform. So we have got some of the biggest companies in Korea, literally top 10, who love this concept of how they could not compete with others, but collaborate for better good. We have got big universities here. We have polytechnics. We have some of the biggest game companies who join this ecosystem. Got bank here, so we've got quite a lot of companies who go, wow, this is for people and growth. So that's what I think people are interested in and companies are loving.
Yeah, well, increasingly people are realizing it's important on both sides for talent looking for companies where they're going to be treated well, and also for companies now realize how important that is for their recruitment and how much money they spend on getting talent.
It's also how we positioned it. It's also how I positioned it. So when I put this in front of the gaming companies, it was about growing esports and eventually affecting their bottom line, where there's a new channel of reaching out to people, and it's not just about pay-per-clicks. It's about achievement hunting. We are trying to do achievements as a form of advertising, where a company, for example, like Starbucks, could be selling how green they are around their organic beans or sustainability, as opposed to selling their coffee. And to do that, they are giving a task for people to do, to volunteer in a farm And that's branded by Starbucks, for example. And that's a way to differentiate themselves from others.
Yeah.
And in this case, what the users don't know is that they are volunteering. I mean, the users are actually earning marketing budget.
Yeah, absolutely. If you put it like that.
So that's what they go, oh wow, that's really interesting, because it's a new channel, and for the first time, we are reversing advertising. It's not me trying to pull people to me. It's actually, it's not me trying to push my ideals, but I'm trying to bring people to come to me to earn what I have. So that's a different way. There is one model in the blockchain world that did that really well, which is Sweatcoin. So they let people somehow, for some reason, walk 1,000 steps and get $1 worth of token. The users are thinking that they earn $1, but all they're earning is vouchers that they can redeem from brands. So that was a very interesting model, because then people want to know more about those brands as a way to get this. So tokens very strong for that, because it's not tied to $1. It's tied to something that's non-tangible. So that's what we're trying to do.
Excellent. Well, Daniel, it's been a real insight. Thank you so much for coming in and sharing that with us. What would be the best way for people to reach out to you? What is the most preferred channel for you? Are you a Telegram man, or you LinkedIn, email? What works for you?
To me?
Yeah, for you personally.
Email is good. I'm on LinkedIn. So you definitely can find me at Daniel Soqqle.
We've got all the details.
All the details, yep.
And you're doing your fundraising. You've got the Kickstarter program coming up in December. It opens in December.
Yes.
Do you have a target in mind, or do you announcing that soon?
We'll be announcing that soon. All right, so follow us.
So get on board. We'll put all the details when you make that public as well. What I would love as well, Daniel, is for you to come back on the show after Kickstarter.
That would be awesome,
because you will have learned a lot in that process. And I think as well is that, success or failure, whatever happens in the Kickstarter, hopefully success, and I think it will go great, is that you will onboard a lot of fans. I mean, you're building fans, you have fans in your community. But I think Kickstarter, it's not just about money, is it? It's about getting people on board, creating a tribe.
Exactly.
And that would be really interesting, what lessons you've learned. So please come back on at some time early next year.
Definitely.
And update us. Daniel Shen, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.